President Biden's disastrous debate performance was a gift to the GOP, and Republicans certainly know it. Now, when asked if Biden should be removed from the White House through the 25th Amendment, a constitutional provision that allows for the president's removal in cases of incapacitation, this is what GOP Speaker of the House Mike Johnson had to say.
We have North Carolina Senator Thom Tillis, and he's reportedly calling on Biden's cabinet to invoke the 25th Amendment, which would possibly remove him from office. Do you think this is going too far?
I've been asked a lot about this over the last 2 days. My background's in constitutional law. This is not something that's been invoked before, but desperate times call for desperate measures. I was asked by Hill Press yesterday, if you were in the cabinet, would you be considering that? I said I would, in good conscience.
So this is, on some level, it's not just about whether Biden can be or should be running for re-election to serve 4 more years, but whether, given what we saw last week, he is even capable of doing the job of the presidency right now. So there is a provision, obviously, the 25th Amendment, which allows, it needs to be initiated under different circumstances by different people, but essentially a majority of his cabinet would have to vote that he is not able to discharge his duties, that he's unable to do that, and then the vice president would take on the duties of the presidency. That's how that would work.
Yeah, the last time this question came up, it was actually Congressman Jamie Raskin raising this against President Trump.
How about that?
How about that, right? Like once you start talking about impeaching presidents and using 25th Amendment for insanity, though, truly, if I were to go give a cognitive test to both presidents at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I would like to see how they both track. We're not talking about 2 young men of the age of, Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, or President Obama, or any future woman who may run for office who probably would need to not be 80 years old at this point to do that. This is pure politics of what is good for the goose is good for the gander, but it does blur the GOP's argument based on one debate, does blur the lines between what Trump has done in office, how Trump behaves on a day-to-day basis, and the debate of being old, which here's where this might backfire for them. We look at the average age of the Senate. It is 61 or 67. Congress also, this is the oldest Congress we have had.
Yeah, remove them all. They're all
this is the oldest Congress we have ever had.
Okay, but hold on.
So suddenly the Biden debate, and then clearly he had energized because he probably slept the next day at the rally, that is the thing that suddenly brings 25th Amendment out for the GOP.
That's the thing. No, the media, the mainstream media went crazy for the 25th Amendment when Trump was in power. There was constant writing in mainstream outlets, progressive outlets on progressive and mainstream cable news about, is the 25th Amendment the solution? This is the solution because of policy disagreements with Trump, not because he's too old to be president, which is actually what the 25th Amendment is about, but because they don't like the way he behaves and the things he says and the policies he has. They were all about using the 25th Amendment to deal with that situation. Now, we have an actual situation that bears on the 25th Amendment, actually has to do with what it's intended for, a president who is very, very old and is showing it and is unable to effectively communicate. And there are very real questions about his cognitive ability. That is what the 25th Amendment is about. And now it's just, now it's coming from the right, obviously. They're using, as you said, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Turnabout is fair play. But the mainstream media, which loved this as a potential Trump solution, is now radio silence. I think that's very funny, amusing. I'm laughing.
Yeah, because I think they're putting a debate in context. That's the thing, right? It is a debate at 9 p.m. at night. To be fair, I didn't really want to be up watching it. Having had to watch it for work was painful on multiple levels. And it was shocking, really, the next day. People, most of my friends and family were like, where was this guy? Where was this Biden at the rally in North Carolina? Like, where was this guy yesterday at the debate? So that is absolutely a discussion that we know is happening within the Democratic Party. People are pushing for more of that discussion. But the New York Times suddenly calling for Biden to step aside for the good of the country never quite managed to do that headline for Trump.
What do you mean? That is nonsense. They've called on Trump. They want Trump to...
they never wrote an entire editorial board opinion saying Trump should step down. That is never, the New York Times has not done that on Trump. However,
pretty sure they have.
The funniest part of this, to me, is that the New York Times, who Biden won't sit down with, Biden is the first person to denigrate or dismiss editorial board opinion. Google that, not individual columnists. You and I both know how media works. The Biden piece is fascinating to me that they thought that Biden would care that they said that. Like, Biden has made it clear he doesn't care for the New York Times. He's not going to sit down with the New York Times. He is definitely focused on a state-by-state strategy. And the editorial board thought, oh, hey, we're going to do this headline, and that's going to suddenly influence the president? That, to me, most of that seems to me to be
they're not
inside.
They're not calling him to drop out because they're pro-Trump. They're calling him to drop out because they think he's going to lose to Trump.
They're
saying not pro-Trump.
They are. The New York Times headline was because it's good for the country. I'm like, oh, at some point, you know who did do that actually, which I thought was side by side. Love the Philadelphia Inquirer. They're also a nonprofit newsroom, but the Philadelphia Inquirer did the for the good of the country. Trump should step out of the race, right? Like, okay, got it.
Nobody wants that. It's a rematch of two very disliked people, and they should. I hope Biden drops out. I hope Trump drops out. I hope we have totally different and better candidates.
But Robby, that's like, right? Like, we're all sitting here like, okay, do any of us really think that dynamic is going to change? Could there be an open convention for Democrats? What they're challenged with right now is the war chest, the legalities of the war chest. You pick a new Democrat, how does that money even go to that new person? How does the infrastructure
go? Biden is not capable
go?
of being president for another 4 months, let alone 4 years.
I think
is my concern, based on what I watched.
And I am concerned
in the same way that
Trump,
our very elderly grandparents or great grandparents should not be trusted with the most at this time in their life.
I don't think Trump should have been trusted the last 4 years either, let alone these next 4 years, right? So if we're talking about trust, then there is a measure of talking about the humanity of the two choices we have right now and the two people we have right now. And while I don't like this, with my soul do not like that this is the choice that we have, and this is the best we could do as a younger country, frankly, that one is a good man, one is not. Like, right? That is to me on a human level. There's an aspect of Joe Biden that I like as a human. There's an aspect of Trump I do not. There are many policies I do not like about Biden. Far more threats that I feel from Trump to our democracy, to how we operate as a system, and how we work together as a public. I do not see those threats similarly from Biden. Again, very general. You can put me in the double hater category of people. What do double haters do? Double haters are the folks who really don't like either candidate. But that's
I'm a double hater.
That's 20% of the electorate. Double haters need to decide after we get through the summer in November, do you show up and do you make this binary choice?
But in the binary choice, Trump is better trusted by majorities of people in polls on the economy, on immigration, on basically every issue except abortion right now. The American people are saying who they, in this binary choice, who they would rather have. Right now in this binary choice, it looks like Biden's going to lose.
Then Democrats have a lot of work to do ahead of them. Yeah. And people who don't like Trump have a lot of work to do ahead of them. But I would say to the double haters, figure out if you're going to participate in the system or not. That's what this is. How are you going to participate in this system?
But wouldn't we say
don't like it? It's the one we got.
It's the Democrats' own fault for nominating and not really having an actual process for having someone else, having this be the candidate, not doing anything about it, even after that debate performance. And he's obviously going to lose, and then you're going to say it's the fault of people for not being insufficiently excited about this walking.
No, I'm just not. These are, for me and for anybody else who wants to maintain their sanity for the next couple of months, I think it is a process of separating the two things. Yeah. There is an opportunity at the convention for those who have actually been part of the system that is already arcane and doesn't welcome people in easily. Will those people, like the Jamie Raskins, like Hakeem Jeffries, who says that this is a conversation they need to have, will they actually have that conversation? But just like when Trump was running again, this is what parties do. They line up behind the incumbent. Yeah. And that's if something does not happen to change in August.
But this is an exceptional circumstance because we have never had a candidate this old and in an obvious state of mental decline.
We have never had a candidate like Trump who after
You've never had a candidate like Biden.
who after 4 years in office coming back with more of a vendetta, with a plan and a system to dismantle our systems of checks and balances, who makes it very clear.
The vendetta, he said, he got asked about that. He said his revenge would be fixing the country.
It is not about
vendetta.
It is not about party or people. Trump is about Trump. He is not good for minorities, individual systems, for the idea of public health and how you navigate science. The binary choice that we are most likely to have in November will come down to, of these two old white men, which one do you think will be better for your family and your country going forward?
Trump.
Do you really think you're going to vote for Trump?
Absolutely. I will not be voting for either candidate, but
so
Biden
why did
cannot
you just
be the
say,
president.
No, that was a direct question. I'm saying this is you as a voter will have to go in there and answer that question.
Yeah, I'm a Libertarian, member of the Libertarian Party. I will be voting in all likelihood for the Libertarian Party candidate. Full disclosure, everyone out there, I really would not vote for Trump or Biden, but last time around, I was like, I would absolutely under no circumstances ever vote for Trump. I mean, I'm not voting for either of them, to be clear. But this time, I really don't understand how anyone could vote for Biden to be president again, given what we just saw. He's not, as a baseline, I do not believe that he is capable of being president for 4 more years, given his age. It's not ideological, it's given his fitness for the office. I don't support Trump, and I won't be voting for either of them, to be clear, but my view, and I'm sure there are millions of Americans who feel this way too after watching this, that Biden simply cannot. I have questions about whether Biden can and should be the president right now. Whether he can be the president for 4 more additional years seems just like beyond everything to me. And Democrats should do something about it. But we'll see if they will.
And hopefully things will change in the next couple of months where Trump is not doing as great as he is doing right now, but I think optimism is not very high in the American public. We already have a majority of the electorate right now, rather voters, are unaffiliated, right? They don't believe in the system, and I'm arguing that if what you want is a functioning system 10 years, 20 years from now, look at what Trump appointees are doing on the Supreme Court, look at what Trump acolytes are doing in Congress, and understand that this is who Trump is surrounding himself with. This is how he gets into power. This is how we start that backsliding of democracies on a global scale. It's, it's happening in Europe, it's happening here in the United States, and maybe lots of folks are okay with that. Listen, 40% of Americans, when you poll them and you actually talk about what a democracy entails, that give and take and that balance, they actually kind of like authoritarianism. 40% of Americans are like, yeah, we should tell other people what to do with their lives all the time.
No, we disagree with what authoritarianism is. I would say authoritarianism is when a vast federal bureaucracy makes all the policies and implements them with no congressional oversight, oversight from the democratic process. We disagree about what authoritarianism is. The people yelling at us about the democratic stakes are the people trying to put Trump in jail or keep him off the ballot. So the democracy argument is being wielded in total bad faith by partisan political operators. No, we don't want to live in an authoritarian system. I want people to have more choice and control over their own lives, over how they run their businesses, over how they conduct their affairs, and that authority should be at the most local level to them so they can have that actual input. So many people on the right and people in Trump's camp don't believe that the progressives of the Democratic Party is pro-democracy. In fact, they believe that it's ruled by just what you said, experts and science people that that you can't double check, that you can't hold accountable, the kind of people who ruled us during COVID, the kind of people who some of us think are responsible for the entire thing in the first place. That's what the right is trying to dismantle, and Trump actually got a 4-year shot to do it, and he didn't, and I think that's the biggest mark against him, that he railed against the deep state and all these people, and then he wasn't even able to stop them from wrapping their tentacles around him, let alone dismantling the federal administrative state. So that's my biggest criticism of him, is that he's not able to do these things he set out.
He's done
Trump has authoritarianism.
Trump has done a very good job at emboldening Christian nationalists and allowing for Christian
nationalists.
The idea of separation of church and state, and how Trump works very closely with evangelicals to write into law what are very specific religious views. That is part of the Trump coalition. So yes, there are things that Trump is doing to deregulate, but it is done as part of a coalition that is perfectly happy to regulate women's bodies, to perfectly happy to have adjusted versions of the 10 Commandments on public property, and now in Oklahoma, teaching the Bible in public schools, which I doubt is going to be the version of Bible that people, discuss in terms of historical context or from an academic perspective. So all of this, yes, that's the right is getting what they want with Trump. The disagreement is that the right has the one view of how the world or all Americans want to live, and the Americans who don't want to live like that certainly have their work cut out for them.
All right, more Rising right after this.